Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. First of all, thank you so much again to all of you who supported my most recent soundtrack. Really appreciate the comments and also your warm and kind words. Also, my heart goes out to everybody who's suffering. Most recently, I heard about food shortages coming because of the supply chain issues, not to mention all the increased unemployment and everything else that is going on around the world, which, by the way, is what motivated me even more to do these videos along with the soundtracks, because looking at it from the neurological way, it might not sound and seem important, but it is the foundation of everything that we're going through. And my hope is that that will help each and every one of us. To help each and every one of us not only to understand what's going on, but to also help expand our awareness and consciousness and thoughts, so that we can go through this enormous, massive change that not only we're experiencing in the US, but also it is going on around the world. I think the more each and every one of us are equipped with the actual organs that we already possess, will be in a much better shape. Because I have experiences myself, not only with myself, but also in my lab and with everything else that I've been studying. So I believe in this so much that I know for sure that there is a guarantee for each and every one of us to be able to go through these huge, massive changes more smoothly and also successfully, as opposed to if we really don't pay attention to it. And what is it that we need to pay attention to? At its core, it is the thought. And that's why I decided to title this video that Thought Provides. Let me explain that a little bit further. Those of you who know me know that my videos are unscripted, and I'm coming from science lens, and sometimes it's really hard for me to formulate these in a coherent way. So I appreciate you giving me the patience so that I can explain. First of all, let's look at what a thought is and why is this important. Because you might sit there and say, hey, I lost my job, I don't have any money, food shortages is coming, I'm having issue with, my family and whatnot. Is totally legit. I totally get it. I'm there with you. I'm in the same boat with you. But I think that because this is the core of every human being, once we understand it at a conscious level, but not this mumbo jumbo way of looking at it, at a really awareness, scientific, conscious level, everything else that we are going through will most probably be either solved, or our attitude towards it will be so different that it would then potentially help us a lot going through that. And so I totally get when people are stressed out and say that all these changes and everything is happening. Again, I get it, but I also know that the initial step towards making things better, making things less stressful, is the foundation. Because if we don't have the foundation of thought that basically makes us all at a core level, and when I say core, I mean at an atomic level, subatomic level, quanta, light quanta that we've already talked about, everything else will have a different meaning. And it would help us to such an extent that it would like mothers, they hug their kids and the kid feels extremely safe. That is how it's going to feel once we become fully aware, fully conscious, and master the art of thought. Now, let's go back to the question, what is a thought? Many people have been trying to define that. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, no one has been able to do it at a satisfactory rate, because my over decade question has been what is a thought at a cellular or atomic or subatomic level, and we still don't know. Yet, what we do know is that a thought exists. A thought emanates electromagnetic waves because of the exchange of electrons, because of the energy that it produces. We already talked about the dance of electrons when they switch orbits. That's how they emanate energy, and that also emanates electromagnetic waves. We know that because we're able to measure it. That is what I've been doing in the labs for years. And so we know the action of thought, but at its core, we still don't know what it is. However, the way that I have been researched it and explained it is how each and every one of our thoughts creates this perception that in actuality is a cloud of EMFs surrounding each and every one of us. Again, we're able to measure EEG, and to some extent we're also able to measure EMFs, although EMFs are much more difficult to measure because there is much more noise around the EMFs. But we do know that it exists, because how can you have electrical activities of the brain along with magnetic activities and not have EMFs? You have to have EMF, which is electromagnetic field. It's just pure science. It's just like saying that air exists without knowing it or without seeing it. And that is what makes the perception of a human being is made up of, because a perception, the way I explain it, is a thought that is settled enough within you, either because of your upbringing, because of your parents, because also things that you have accumulated since you were adults. And that thought, it's settled enough within you that you no longer question it. It's just there. And it could be anything. Like, for example, a thought would be that, my mom's name is XYZ. And that is a thought that is ingrained in me. It's settled enough in me that I no longer question it. Now use that example for everything else. Once you use that example for everything else, and once you also think about and know that a thought is emanating electromagnetic waves, it is no longer a rocket science idea to understand that it does create a cloud around us, an EMF cloud, I should say. And because these thoughts are settled enough, they are with us continuously. In other words, we don't question them, they're always there. And so they keep creating these EMFs. Sometimes they become stronger because we think about them. Most of the time they're not, because it's just very habitual. Now, if you think about this perception at a sort of a cloud of EMF level around you, And again, this is the way I explain it, and feel free to challenge me. That's not a problem at all. But this is the way I have come to research it and understand it. So the reason I started by saying that a thought provides is because it is one of the most intimate things that we can have and carry with us at all time at all time. Like every single one of your organs, you carry it with you. It's a very intimate thing, and they all are also emanating EMFs. Your heart does, your liver does, your every single cell does that. And all of that contributes to this sort of a cloud of an EMFs around us. And all of that, those EMFs, they include information, they include data, they include knowledge. You can call it whatever you want. And that has been my passion, to figure out how that is. Because even up until today, when we talk about memory or information and whatnot, we really just look at the physical aspect of it. I'm more interested in the non-physical EMF aspect of it. And so that's why the things that I present, some of them are theories and some of them are proven. But let's go back to the fact that when I say a thought provides, and also going back to, if you think about your perception as an EMF waves. If you think about it, whatever wave that comes towards you, and that's how they come towards us basically, by the way, because there is nothing physical, for example, that is connecting you and I right now, yet you still can see me and you can still hear me. And seeing me is a set of information and data that you are decoding right now as you're sitting there. The same goes with my voice and also with the language that I'm using. So you can see how freaking amazingly complicated this whole system is. I'm just at awe. Anyways, let's set that aside. But so because there is no physical things that is connecting us, then by definition, it must be that we are connected at a non-physical level, meaning to say the way we have been able to look at it is at energetic and as electrical and as magnetic waves that are being transmitted right now. Because there is simply no wire connecting us, right? We're like communicating now wirelessly as opposed to with wire. And so that is the only way a data and information knowledge can be transferred, right? And that is why I'm very fascinated about what is it at that electron, at that energetic level that has information. Where is that information really? And I still haven't been able to answer that. But if you think about it that way, then the line of communication, the invisible line of communication, must then exist between, let's say, me and the world. How else would I, for example, hear what is going on outside? Because there is a wireless connection. Now, some of these data we can actually hear. Let's say if an ambulance passes by, then it's a physical thing that is making a physical noise, and I hear it wirelessly. And that is one type of information. But there is also another type of data and information or knowledge that does exist, and we have, every single one of us has experienced it, and I'm sure you guys all have experienced it too. And those are the ones that you simply know, or you get a sense about it, but you just cannot say that this is what I heard, or this person told me this. It is that type of a data and knowledge that you just know. And those are the thoughts that I was meaning to say when I said the thought provides. And I have a perfect little example for that. I'm only bringing up this example so that we have something tangible to think about and to discuss and converse around. That is my only intention. So a few days ago, I was going to go somewhere, and it was the middle of the day at noon, to be exact, Saturday at noon. And as I was picking up my purse, suddenly, for just like 2 seconds probably, my whole body paused, and I didn't know why. And I just heard that take your pepper spray with you. It's the middle of the day. I hardly ever take my pepper spray with me. It's a small little stupid things for $10. I found it online, and you know, it hardly ever even looks dangerous, let alone, you know, it actually being functioning. But what I'm trying to say is that I just heard it. It was a very vivid voice that just said, take your pepper spray with you. And it was a moment that I'm like, this is weird. And I tried to discuss and, you know, have a conversation with it logically and say, what do you mean? It's the middle of the day. But I didn't, without any discussion, without anything. I just sort of said, okay, I'm going to take it with me. There was no, I didn't resist the idea. I just put it in there. I'm like, it really doesn't hurt. Let me just take it. Now, fast forward, something happened that pretty much this pepper spray saved me from something that I will never know what would have happened if I didn't have that pepper spray, because I was approached by someone, and I don't want to go into details because honestly, I don't know the intention of the person, nor will I ever know the intention of the person. But it was at an empty parking lot. And this person approached me, and at some point he started talking, and then at some point I got panicked, and that was the first thing I did. I took out the pepper spray and I just showed it to him. I didn't do anything. And then right at the same time, this was like a few seconds, it went really fast. He just reacted and went away, and right then a car came to the parking lot. And so the reason I just want to use this example is the moment that thought came, because the thought at that time, my thought provided for me safety in this case. And it was something that I would have never even thought about, honestly, to a pepper spray in daytime. That was one thing, but more importantly is my reaction towards that thought, because I could have ignored it or tried to discuss with him. So I'm like, are you stupid? Are you kidding me? Why would I take it with me? But I didn't for some reason. However you look at it, both of these sort of A and B conversation to me was very interesting, because there was a communicator that communicated that knowledge ahead of time that you need this for your safety just 20 minutes from now, and I had no idea. The communication from B side was to just submit and never question that knowledge, that data, that information that was being communicated. So in order for that incident to be experienced fully, both communicator A and communicator B should have been aware and at a higher level of consciousness for them to be able to speak to each other. And that's where I'm going with all this, is that when we talk about higher consciousness, not higher because people use it and I don't know why they use it, because I look at the world at a electron and subatomic level, and when you look at an electron or quanta or even light quanta, there is no up and down, it just is. So that's why I never say higher consciousness, but let's say expanded and empowered consciousness. That is when that communication happens. Now, again, this is just one silly example, and I'm sure you have many, many of these examples in your life, and I'm sure you do, because this is a gift that has been given to every single person in this world, because you are, whether you want it, believe it or not, you're an antenna. An antenna that all the EMFs, everything is going through you and going outside of you. And so it is to each and every one of us to expand our consciousness to such an extent that not only do we hear this type of knowledge, this type of information, this type of data, this type of electromagnetic data, but we also don't negate it. We also don't argue with it. We actually listen to it and we do it, because that is when we can fully experience it. Now, some people call this a spiritual experience. Some people call it religious. I really don't care. I just care about the gist of it. We can believe whatever we want, but at a subatomic level and at the quanta level that we've been talking about, those are the rules that exist in each and every one of us, and we can see it within the electromagnetic waves around us. We can measure them. We can read through them. I hope that makes sense. And so going back to what I started with in terms of the thought provides, that is exactly the experience that I had. Again, this is a little example that I knew at that moment that my thought provided for me at that particular moment in time. I will never know what would have happened if I did not bring it. But judging from my encounter, the way that they sort of left, these people, was because they realized that, I had something in my hand, and maybe he thought, who knows, maybe she has something else in her purse also. And so that is the type of data or information that was communicated to me towards that, even 20 minutes before the incident. And then without having an argue, without negating it, I accepted and I took it and I used it. So a thought provides. This may sound a little bit like mumbo jumbo to many people, but if we go by it and if we learn and teach ourselves to be more and more and more conscious, expanding our consciousness more and more, we will be able to have this type of communication much more than we are familiar with. And the more we do it, the more it'll come. And I'm not talking about just, voodoo level. I'm actually talking about at the scientific level, because from the science perspective, we are able to use these EMF waves to even guess what somebody's thinking about. And so it's really scientific. That's what I'm trying to say. And the more we can do it, the more we will be able to let ourselves be provided by. And so today, unfortunately, so many people are going through a lot of issues, and it's horrible. It's horrible to see. But if you know my channel, my belief, strong belief, is in humanity, and I know that in the future, every single person will come in terms with one day that I need this. I need my consciousness, because that is what is going to provide. And then the money will come, the job will come, the house, everything else. Basically, it's just part of it. And it's not the law of attraction, by the way, which I'm, by the way, so tired of, because if I hear that word one more time, I'm gonna, because it's just, people are just using it because they just want money, 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 and And so far, honestly, I haven't really met anybody who has been able to do it long term. Because for me, if anything is supposed to work, it needs to be long term. I'm never satisfied with a short term solution. It's good that it's there, but if it shows itself long term that it's actually sustainable, then I agree with it. But with that, I think it's just like, I think it's great that people think about it, but I'm not talking about that. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm really talking at a much more sort of quanta level and EMF level. And if it sounds the same to some of you, it's just because your perception is as such. Because your perception makes or breaks what you think about, and what you see, what you listen, what you hear. That is basically a shield. I've talked about perception in the past, but I will talk a little bit more about it again, because if you think about I explain perception as an EMF cloud around us. And if you think of it, it's like a bouncer. You know, when you go to one of those clubs, the bouncer is there and it's like, you in, you out, I don't let you in, I let you in, I let you in, I don't let you in. That's how perception works. It is really a shield that whatever thought that has been thought and is coming towards you through these wireless EMFs, if they are the same frequency and the same EMFs as the shield of your perception, the bouncer lets them in. If not, it doesn't let them in. That's why we say you hear what you want to hear. That's exactly. So that's why your interpretation of the things that I say, if it goes towards those kind of discussions and law of attraction and whatnot, that's just because maybe that is part of your perception. My goal is not to talk about that, because my goal is much more sort of long term in terms of consciousness. I hope I'm making sense, because sometimes I just go off tangent and then I can see it, but sometimes it's really hard to say it. So I thank you for your patience, and I hope it makes sense. I read each and every one of your comments, by the way, because I value whatever you guys say. Our audience is still small. Nonetheless, I want to pay attention to each and every one of you, and I really, really appreciate it. But I encourage each and every one of you to think about it, about a thought providing, and what that means in your life. And I'll see you next time.